Hey everyone, I'm your host Marcus Norman of Gentleman Style Podcast Show. And today we have a very special guest. It's been a minute since we've gone live, y'all. This is epic, but I'm glad to be back. I'm glad to be doing these lives with you all. We have a very dynamic speaker coming to the stage today, and you won't want to miss what he has to talk about. He's going to be spilling the proverbial tea. That's all we do on this show is spill tea, and we talk about the truth. And no better topic, no better expert than Mr. Brandon coming to you live. So stay tuned, stay with us. Here we go. Hey everyone, I'm your host Marcus Norman of Gentleman Style Podcast Show, and today I have Mr. Brandon Joe Williams. This man is extraordinary. He is a state national of California. We're going to dive into what that means on this dynamic episode, but he's also author of 2 books, working on his third, and his author of The Common Law. He considers himself a common law lawyer. And he's also the founder of several companies. One of his favorite companies is he's the founder of the Amnesty Coalition, a group that aims to address slave state framework. Mr. Brandon and his team are successful in numerous aspects, and he had a successful career in sales and marketing and left corporate America. I love those types of guests when they come on to the show and they're leaving corporate America, right? That is unique in itself. But Mr. Brandon is now devoting his full-time work to research and experimentation and becoming a state national and writing his 3rd book on martyrdom and escapism. And he's going to help us today break out of the matrix here today on the show. So help me welcome, without further ado, I can't help but hold this man back, Mr. Brandon Joe Williams. Welcome to the show, Mr. Brandon. How are you?
Good, man. Thank you so much. It was quite the introduction. I appreciate that.
It's all you, man. That is you. You putting in the work. You've been busy, sir, but it is epic to have you here on the Gentleman Style Podcast Show, and it is a true honor to have you, sir. Diving right in, what you left corporate America, that just stuck out to me. You left corporate America. That is suicidal by most standards, and most people wouldn't even conjure or think about that. What provoked you to get on the mission trail that you're on today? How did you decide to leave corporate America? What triggered that?
Leaving corporate America, that's kind of an interesting way of putting it. I've always been someone who works for himself or owns companies or something like that. Leaving corporate America meaning like learning how to exit the corporate structure of America, or exit the tax system of America, or exit the driver's license system of corporate America. I guess that would make more sense to me. But I wasn't like in a corporate job and then I left a corporate job, something like that. So I guess we can talk a little bit more about, like, when you say leaving corporate America, what exactly do you mean by that?
No, that's fair, and that's right, and that's it. It's so you left the system, right?
The system, yeah.
The corporate America system, not necessarily the traditional 9 to 5 that is also slave to us all, some of us. But you left the structure, the structural that, and you push against that. You've devoted and committed yourself to pushing against that. How did you do that, and what inspired that movement? Did something happen? Did you notice something in society? Did you notice something in the Matrix? What inspired this?
I was being attacked by some government agencies in a company that I had taken over here in California, and people were like, just pay them, just work out a payment plan. And I'm like, it doesn't make sense why I would pay these companies that do nothing for me, do nothing for anyone else. They behave as though they're the mafia. It doesn't make any sense that I would pay them any money. So instead of paying them any money, how about I figure out how to not pay them any money? And in fact, how do I figure out how to bill them for bothering me. And that was kind of like the beginning of my journey, I guess you could say. I was like, there has to be a way that I could not only get out of this, but make some money off of these people harassing me. You know what I mean?
Yeah. 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 So how has that been for you? How has that journey been? Because you teach this, you actually talk about this in your company and on your website. Leaving the system, leaving the tax system. How can someone legally never pay taxes again?
Yeah. So the way that works is basically the uh, you basically when you have a documentation such as your driver's license, your passport, etc., and you have it where it says U.S. citizen on there, U.S. citizen, U.S. citizen, U.S. citizen. What you want to do is you want to go through all of those different documents and all those different things and change your status from U.S. citizen to what's called state citizen / U.S. national. And when you do that, see, the definition of the term United States in law, in the US Code, what it means is, it actually means, by definition, in black and white in the US Code, United States is located inside of the District of Columbia. And that's basically how they've essentially tricked everybody into, when you look at a tax form like a W-9, and it says, are you a US citizen? Or did you make money from within the United States? What they're actually asking you in that question is, the legal question is, do you live or reside in the District of Columbia? And have you made any income or money from the District of Columbia? So for most people in America, the answer to that question is no. So what happens is that all you have to do is just say, once you change your status with the Department of State through the passport system, you're changing your status from a U.S. citizen to a state citizen. Once you complete that, then you can basically state under oath that you no longer live in the United States, because the United States is the District of Columbia. California is not in the District of Columbia. New York is not in the District of Columbia. Montana is not in the District of Columbia. So you're not in the United States as it's defined in the United States Code.
Thank you for breaking that down, and thank you for educating us. What's it mean to be a state national?
It means that you're no longer in the documentation of your citizenship, of your nationality. You no longer are a U.S. citizen. You're what's called a non-citizen national. A non-citizen national, by definition in law, is someone who has completely disconnected themselves from Washington, D.C. legally. And basically, it's someone who says, I don't want to be involved with you anymore. I don't want to have anything to do with you anymore. I'm not working for you. I'm not withholding any taxes for you. I don't even want to receive really communication from you necessarily. You are basically saying, I am a completely foreign entity, foreign government. And actually, it's funny because if you look up Title 18, Section 112, so if you just type into the internet, 18 space USC space 112 and hit enter, Cornell Law University will come up. And that's one of the sections that actually talks about this particular status. There's different names for the status. One of the names is National of the United States, which means someone who's foreign from the United States. Another term that I found really, really interesting is called internationally protected person. So that's another term. Another term that's used to describe this nationality is foreign government. So you are actually considered a foreign government by law from the United States when you are a state national.
Thank you for breaking that down. And I appreciate that you breaking that down so silently. How are you able? How has any of this affected your business and how you operate and how you move through the country?
Oh yeah, 100%, totally.
Really?
So the way it works is when you're traveling, let's say you're driving a car or a motorcycle, something like that. There's two different types of traveling, right? There's traveling for non-commerce, meaning you're not making money, like a taxi, and then there's traveling for commerce, which would be like a big rig or a taxi or an Uber, something like that, right? So when you're traveling privately and you're not involved in commerce actively at that exact moment when you're driving that vehicle, you would use your passport. And what happens is when you get the 4 or the 5-star passport, which is this type of nationality that I'm talking about right now, and you change your nationality to get your new passport, if you use the passport while traveling, police cannot detain you or give you tickets on anything that does not contain a victim. There has to be a victim. If you hit someone or you smash into somebody, or if you cause a big accident, now you can be detained and you can be prosecuted. But things like speeding, things like driving through stop signs, things like drunk driving, I hate to say it, may not be the greatest thing for most people, but the truth is you can no longer be detained and get tickets based off of these things because you're using two different forms of identification when you travel. One is the driver's license, which is used for commerce purposes, and the other is the passport, which is used for private transport. So whenever you're driving, like I don't even carry my driver's license on me when I'm in a vehicle unless I'm driving the vehicle for commerce purposes. I only carry the passport, right? So if I know for a fact, I'm going to go and drive a dump truck or do something like that, then I got to make sure I grab my driver's license before I leave because I'm going to be involved in commerce during that time. When you're involved in commerce, it's a completely different set of laws that operate versus when you're not involved in commerce. And the problem in this country is that what they're doing is they're trying to make everything that you do in your entire day commerce. Even when it's not, they're trying to make it as though it is. Everyone thinks a driver's license is something that you just get so you can drive a car. That's not what a driver's license is at all. You don't need a driver's license. You just need a passport to drive your own private automobile. And you can get a passport at 12, 13, 14, 11 years old. So technically, legally, you can start driving a vehicle at a very, very much younger age than what most states will allow people to drive. You just have to do it in a different way. You have to register your vehicle in a different way. You have to do some other things in a different way. But basically, a driver's license, when you carry a driver's license and when you present a driver's license, what you're doing when you present that license is you're saying, I'm involved in commerce right now. Here is my license to practice commerce. Here you go. That's what you're doing. When you hand someone a passport, what you're doing is you're saying, I am involved in private non-commerce. This is my identification for private non-commerce. Here you go. And when you do that, you're in two completely different worlds, depending on which one you choose.
Thank you. Thank you for breaking that out. This is huge. I told y'all, Mr. Brandon Williams, y'all, spilling the tea. Speaking of commerce, we have to go to a short commercial break. We got to pay some bills that we didn't bring our passport for. We will be right back.
If you're looking for a reliable, professional trucking and logistics service, you've come to the right place. Musa Trucking is a veteran-owned and operated premier transportation provider that can help with all of your trucking and logistics needs. Musa is revolutionizing the trucking industry through strategic partnerships, the development of core personnel, and the use of cutting-edge technology. Our inventory system ensures that cargo ends up divided into the right trucks and reaching the correct destination. Our drivers are dedicated to transporting goods efficiently and safely. Contact us today to get started by visiting the website on the screen or by calling 757-756-5246.
We are back to the Gentleman Style Podcast Show. And we are interviewing Mr. Brandon Joe Williams, spilling the tea on how it is to be a state national citizen and how to conduct business legally without paying taxes and to avoid issues in your life. And some of his life experiences, his real world. He is real world, y'all. This is not the metaverse. He's real deal Holyfield over here on the Gentleman Style Podcast Show. So, Mr. Brandon, tell me, you have your company, the Amnesty Coalition. Tell us, you're the founder of the Amnesty Coalition. What is it that you guys specialize? What is it you guys do?
That's just a side project that I do. So with the Amnesty Coalition, basically what it is I don't want this to turn into some kind of like civil war type of thing. Because obviously, when people learn about what I'm teaching, which they already are, I'm not the only guy talking about this. They get usually pretty angry about it. Like, for example, all the taxes that you pay, they just go to the interest on the loan from the Federal Reserve. This whole thing where your tax money goes to build bridges, it goes to build roads, it goes to do this, it goes to do that. Not one penny of any tax money you've ever paid in your entire life has gone to absolutely anything except directly to the Federal Reserve. From the Federal Reserve, it goes up to the International Monetary Fund. And then from the International Monetary Fund, it goes up to the United Nations. Every single penny. So as people are waking up to this and learning about this, they're generally pretty upset about it, which I understand. So the Amnesty Coalition, basically what we do and what we stand for is it's a non-bloodshed standpoint on what we're going to do now moving forward. The whole plan is to as per the United States Code and as per what I've already described to you, there's a little bit more information. The government is actually a corporation, okay? And the actual definition of United States in the United States Code is a federal corporation. A federal corporation. That's actually the definition straight from the definition section of the United States Code, right? So when did our government become a private for-profit corporation, a non-government private for-profit corporation, acting as though it's the government? When did that happen? It actually happened in 1871. So it's been a long time, right? Now, prior to maybe like 1865, we had an actual real government in America. So what the Amnesty Coalition basically stands for is it stands for let's not kill everybody and kill ourselves and go into some kind of a civil war. Let's just quietly and calmly, give amnesty to all of the people who may be involved in what's going on right now, not even realizing it. There's a lot of people who don't realize what they're involved in at all, right? Mm-hmm. And let's just do what we need to do to quietly and in a friendly way, let's move the current system back to the original system, and let's have a real government, and let's remove private for-profit corporations that act as though they're the government when they're not. Let's go back to a real government, one that's financed through the people themselves, one that the people themselves actually have control over. The reason why Americans feel like they don't have any control over what the government is doing is because they don't. Because the government it's not really a government anymore. It's a private for-profit corporation that's run as a corporation. For example, in California, you have California, and then you have state of California. Whenever you sign legal documents, or whenever you sign voter registration, or whenever you sign a state tax filing, it says, are you a resident of state of California? Now, generally, state of California, the S is capitalized or all the letters are capitalized. Now, when you research that very, very heavily, what you learn, and I have all the evidence on my website, is that state of California is actually just a sub-corporation of United States, which is a corporation. And the corporation, state of California, is actually located in the District of Columbia. So when you say that you're a resident of state of California, what you're saying is that you say, I'm living in Washington, D.C., the District of Columbia. So it's this big, goofy mafia scam that's being run across the whole country, right? So the thing is that the state of California and California are two completely different places. California is an actual piece of land that's a piece of the original Republic of the United States of America. It's not a corporation. State of California is a private for-profit corporation that's located in the District of Columbia.
So it's a wheel round. It's pulling you back to the original.
So what you have to learn all these different ways in which you're being pulled back into the system. And once you learn these various definitions of these various words, and you learn how they'll capitalize one letter, and then boom, now it means something completely different. Once you understand the capitalization and the definitions of the terms, words, and phrases, you can exit the system completely, and you can't really get sucked back into it at all. Because the thing is that United States, the private for-profit corporation known as United States, which is the District of Columbia, they only have jurisdiction over the people who live in or are resident to the District of Columbia. So when you disconnect from the system entirely, they no longer have any jurisdiction over you. They no longer have any jurisdiction over you for criminal purposes. They no longer have any jurisdiction over you for writing you tickets. They no longer have any jurisdiction over you for tax purposes. They no longer have any jurisdiction over you for anything. And they actually admit it openly in the United States Code.
Wow. Mr. Brandon, I'm going to pivot here. I'm going to pivot strong here. You've written 2 books so far.
Yes.
And you're working on your 3rd. If not, it'll probably soon be released. Tell us about your 2 books that you recently did that are out now, available now. Don't Be a Slave to Your Clients and Love is a Battery. What can readers expect from these books? What's the goal of these books?
Yeah, so this one is Don't Be a Slave to Your Clients right here. And these were written before I started doing all this state national research. This book is basically all about how to create marketing and sales lines in your business, where it's like super, super high value marketing and sales lines. So if anybody would like to see one of the projects that I'm doing that I own half the company, it's a company called Droughtscape. They can go to yardprofessional.com. And they can kind of see the kind of marketing that I do. We have all of my businesses or all of the companies that I work with. We have a free educational course associated with everything that I do. So any client that's coming into a marketing or a sales funnel, all I do is I basically build out a super highly valuable free educational course that delivers monstrous amounts of value. And then all I do is just market to feed people into that free course. And then all of my sales prospects are people who come off the other end of that free educational course. There's a lot of other things in the book, but that's the basic spinal cord of how I put together all of my marketing and my sales funnels for my companies, and all of how I do that, how I handle phones, how I handle people's documentation. Everything's in here. Basically, everything to create a really, really high value connection with your prospects, to completely annihilate price resistance, and be able to increase your fees of whatever you're doing over and over and over and over and over and over, and people will still be coming to you and not to anybody else. You won't really need to sell. Like a lot of people think of sales. You don't really need to sell anymore. You do all the work on the front end, and you just deliver massive amounts of value, and you handle them in a certain way. And then on the back end, it's just no price resistance, easy signups. It's a very different world, right? That's the first book.
You have any stats on it? Like what people typically have seen after reading your book? Do you create the funnels for them, or you just walk them through how to create the funnels?
In this, I don't take on a lot of clients because I have one client that I work with, which is a dental office, and then I have my landscaping company, and because these funnels are so effective, I don't really need to take on additional clients. I have people who would like me to work with them, but my price tag, I keep it very, very high because I'm like, don't really want to do the work, but I will for a certain price, right? So I don't do a whole lot of one-on-one because I literally just have one or two clients and I make more money than I can possibly spend. So it is a very effective funnel just from that alone. I don't need more than one or two clients. That's how effective my funnel is. Okay. So, and then love is a battery. Basically what happened was, because I was studying so much about marketing and sales and stuff like that, there's a book that I had read. There's only, I've read probably 180 books on marketing and sales. And the best one by far, is a book called Uncensored Sales Strategies by Sidney Biddle-Barros. It's a book that's not even in print anymore. You can only get it used, and it's a book that actually Dan S. Kennedy forced her to write. She wasn't actually going to write it, and he forced her to write it. And she was actually a madame, so she actually ran the largest escort service in all of New York City between the mid 80s, early 90s, in that kind of area, right? And one of the things that she describes in her book is there's three types of sales. There's brute force, there's consensual, and then there's romance. So she relates the entire sales process to seduction, right? And it's by far the most impactful sales book I've ever read in my entire life. It changed my entire perspective of the whole world, okay? And it's sort of that research, especially that book in particular, got me thinking a lot about seduction and how it relates to marketing and sales. So basically, this book is a book about how to create really, really high intensity, high passion relationships or sexual experiences. And it's based off of the research that I did in sales, marketing, and seduction.
Yes, sir. Thank you for that. So it's so very powerful. So you touch on two different important aspects. You touch on the relationship aspect so that people can get to a better life, but you also give the tips and secrets and strategies that have done you well in sales and marketing, and how you've grown your businesses, several of your businesses in your company. So thank you for that. Thank you for breaking that down. But Mr. Williams, everything I've heard is everything we've all heard our entire lives. Is it a lie? Have we been basically lied to our entire lives? Is the propaganda that's out there real, or who can we trust if not our own government? Who can we trust out there in the world?
Government a long time ago, it actually it was designed to assist the people. The people would assist the government, and the government would assist the people. And sadly, over the years, that has become less and less and less the fact. And now at this point, as far as I'm concerned, it's a direct war between the people and the government. And most people don't realize that they're in a war, but they are in a war. I don't recommend fighting the war. I recommend analyzing the war very, very thoroughly, just like Sun Tzu in The Art of War. Analyze the war very, very thoroughly. Know thy enemy. Step back, breathe. Don't get mad. Don't attack. Really, really take the time to analyze the war, analyze the situation. Frankly, we are currently in a World War III. We are currently in a world war, an active world war, no different than World War II. It is a mostly information economic based war, and it's going on all over the world. It's not just America. So when you learn that, I recommend that you simply educate other people so that other people can realize what the war is, what the terms of the war is, when did it start, what's the deal, who's involved. And it's not necessarily a war that you really have to involve yourself in at all. The problem is that 99% of people, whether they realize it or not, the actions that they're doing on a daily basis are probably contributing to one or the other side of this war without them even knowing. So I guess really the most important part is not necessarily fighting the war. It's just realizing how whatever actions that you're doing in your life is feeding one or the other side of the war, and you should be conscious of what you're doing and what you're contributing to. And then once you're conscious, then you're like, oh my God, I didn't realize that I was contributing to that. I don't want to contribute to that. I want to contribute to this. And or just completely disconnect from the system entirely and don't even do anything that would really contribute to anything. That's kind of mostly what I recommend people do, because truthfully, Washington, D.C. only has jurisdiction in Washington, D.C. Washington, D.C. is trying so hard and has been very successful to create this whole scammy system to where they have jurisdiction outside of Washington, D.C. by making people sign pieces of paper that say weird things that they don't understand, that places them in Washington, D.C. legally. But the thing is that once people wake up to this and they start to change their paperwork and realize what these terms mean, Washington, D.C. can just do their thing in Washington, D.C., and the Republic of the 50 states of America will have its own separate governments for each state, or even smaller governments for each city. And that's basically where things are going to go in the future, right? So it's just you guys are over there. You guys are going to do your thing. If you guys want to go crazy or, do whatever you want to do, that's in your jurisdiction. You guys have 10 square miles. You guys have the Washington, D.C. area. You guys are a private for-profit corporation. You guys have government employees that work for you in a private corporate state. You guys can do whatever you want to do. You're over there. I'm over here. And then now that I'm over here and I'm in California, now do I want to help create a local government in the original California, the actual state of California, not the corporate state? That's up to you. I mean, you don't really have an obligation to raise the original government of your state from the dead, right? If you want to, there are a lot of people doing that. There is a huge movement right now going on. It's generally called assemblies. So you have the California Assembly, you have I'm assuming New York Assembly, you have these different state assemblies that are being built right now. They have their own juries. They have their own connection in with the sheriff's office, because the sheriff's office is actually like it's sort of half and half. It gets a little bit weird, right? So the sheriff's office is actually supposed to be like the main center point, the crux between the original government, which is the non-corporate government, and the corporate government, which is the federal government, which is Washington, D.C. So the sheriff's office is really where a lot of the action and kind of everything that I'm talking about is going to take place, right? So the sheriff is actually supposed to take the local non-corporate government is much higher on the scale, much higher on the importance scale than the federal corporate government. Like, for example, a lot of people know that like a sheriff, if he doesn't want to give jurisdiction to the FBI or the CIA, he doesn't have to. He can just say, no, like go F yourself, leave. And they have to go, because the sheriff is the one who has the by far the highest jurisdiction of anything occurring in his area. He has to give jurisdiction away to the feds in order for the feds to be able to take over the case. And the feds do it through intimidation. They intimidate the sheriff. And then the sheriff said, okay, boys, you can have jurisdiction. And that's how they get it.
Well, the sheriff is a political appointee. He's voted in via whoever's in office.
Exactly.
So it's not like a traditional police department where
exactly.
So yeah.
So the U.S. Marshals is basically like the original constitutional, like higher level police force. And then your more normal level police force is called the sheriff's office. And the original term that was used to name police officers, because the word police officer that's not really true, because the word police means policy. So a police officer is a policy officer. A police officer is someone who basically polices the policy of the private for-profit corporation known as United States. It's a policy officer. So once you're no longer under their policy, then the police officer no longer has any jurisdiction over you at all whatsoever, even in their own computer system, right? Yeah. So the original term that was used for police officer is called a peace officer. So once we move back to the original constitutional government, we're not going to have police officers anymore. We're going to have peace officers. You'll have the peace officers, you'll have the sheriff's office, and then you'll have the U.S. Marshals. And that'll be the way that'll be the three different levels. There's obviously going to be all the other in-between stuff and everything else, but you have the peace officers, which is the guys on the street. You have the sheriff's office, and then you have the U.S. Marshal's office. And that's how it's going to be.
Thank you. Thank you for that. That's huge. This has been an epic episode here on the Gentleman Style Podcast. Mr. Brandon, you have shared so many nuggets on the show today.
Yeah.
Any final nuggets? Any words of encouragement? It all sounds like doom and gloom here. And I try to be better than that. I try to.
What I'm doing is exploding. There's a lot of people teaching it. There's a lot of things happening. This is huge. It's happening super fast. Millions of people are doing it. I have a free course that you could do on my website if you want to sign up. It's totally free. It's called the Contract Killer Course, and it basically helps you locate and kill every single one of these contracts. And my website, which your people are going to find it very, very funny. My website is onestupidfuck.com.
Gotcha. And it's on the big screen. So for those of you guys want to connect, Mr. Brandon, thank you again for being on the show. Thank you again for giving back in this way and sharing this insight, this knowledge. I appreciate you, sir.
Very welcome.
Yes, sir. What's next? What's in store for you? What you got coming next besides book number 3?
Well, I'm just working every single day. I do a lot of research, man. Research. I'm digging through the United States Code. I'm digging through the Uniform Commercial Code. I'm digging through everything, looking at definitions of words. I have multiple friends that are doing the same thing, so we have a blast. I know it doesn't sound like it's a blast, but boy, we have a blast. It's like it's a lot of fun. We have a lot of fun doing this. It's a lot of excitement, a lot of emotion. It's like, oh my God, look what I found. This is going to change the world. It's a big deal.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Connect with Mr. Brandon and his team on what they're doing. This is huge. This is interesting. This is a movement, and it sounds like it's been around for a while. Thank you again for giving insight to what it is you're doing and what we should be focusing on, what we should be paying attention to. I appreciate you, sir.
You're very welcome. Thanks, guys.
Absolutely. And thank you, my audience, for tuning in to the Gentleman Style Podcast Show. I hope this has been helpful. I hope this has been informational. And I hope this has been inspirational in so many different ways. Like I always end every show, we got to let Mr. Brandon go. Oh, sorry, my phone was blowing up. We got to let Mr. Brandon go. He's about to take over the world. Create the new dynasty.
The new old America.
Yeah, the new old America. So thank you all for tuning in. Like I always end every show, take care of your friends, take care of your family, and always take care of business. This is the Marcus Norman of Gentleman Style Podcast Show and Mr. Brandon Joe Williams signing off. Love you guys. Bye.